A movie from the 1980s has a plot line that goes a little something like this. There's a young, lonely boy named Elliot, and he discovers an alien hiding out, someone already got it, in his family's tool shed. He lures him out with Reese's Pieces, exactly. A close bond forms between boy and alien. Scientists try to kidnap the alien. Boy and alien save each other. Clearly, many of you know this movie very well. It is E.T. So there are many sweet moments in this film. The time when E.T. revives the dead chrysanthemums by the power of his brain. There's E.T. learning English by watching Sesame Street. And I mean, for how many of us does that ring true that we also learned some English and numbers by learning Sesame Street, those of us of a certain age? And then there was him, of course, desperately wanting to phone home. Oh my goodness, his heart so longing for the people and place that he knew so well, despite the love he felt for Elliot. It's a movie about the power of friendship, the power of finding a people that you belong to, and it's also about the power of transcendence in our lives. Elliot, if you remember, he leads a pretty disconnected life from people at school, even from some of his family members. And after he discovers a strange being living in the shed, Elliot's idea and understanding of the universe begins to open up and unfold. He holds in reverence all intangible things that eyes see not, nor ears can detect, that hands can never touch, that space cannot hold, and time cannot measure. Elliot begins to get a sense of those things. In one scene, Elliot cuts his finger on the blade of a saw, and E.T., compassionate being that he is, his finger starts to glow, and he reaches out and touches the wound on Elliot's finger, and it heals. Alien reaching out to human, the fingers of two meet. That echoes Michelangelo's fresco on the Sistine Chapel, the creation of Adam. God reaching out, his touch giving life to humanity, giving birth to all humanity. Now, in the movie, their friendship grounds both Elliot and E.T., and it awakens the sense of awe in Elliot, his direct experience of the transcending mystery and wonder of our universe, his understanding that we are of the stars, the dust of explosions cast across space. It's all come to life right in front of him. The central question we've explored in several of this summer's worship services is, how do we create meaning in our lives? And how do we create meaning in our lives when it feels like so often we're surrounded by a dominant culture that tells us we shouldn't be looking for meaning, we should actually be searching for happiness? And all too often, that search for happiness can come through addictive or harmful behaviors, things that really keep us from finding meaning in our lives, whether it's shopping or drinking or not feeling great about ourselves, just a whole host of addictive behaviors to fill that hole. And so instead, as we try to focus on happiness, we ask ourselves the question, how do we integrate our mind, heart, body, spirit connection? Our summer worship road trip came with a map created by Emily Esfahani Smith in her book, The Power of Meaning. She identified 4 essential stops or pillars that can help us find fulfillment on this lifelong journey we're on. And in July, we began with the pillar of belonging. that in order to create a meaningful life, that we must have a people that we belong to. And it's important for us to not only reach out to other people, but it's really crucial that we learn how to accept the embrace of others. And once we find a people to call home, we turn to purpose, doing something in our lives that brings us joy and satisfaction, whether it's work or volunteering or family. Purpose, call, vocation, whatever you call it, we need to do something with our lives that allow us to put our inner values at work out in the world. And then last week, we focused on storytelling. The stories we tell about ourselves help us disassemble and reassemble who we are with this lifelong goal of creating a whole, coherent self. And today, we wrap up. We take our last stop on our summer road trip toward meaning, and it brings us toward the transcendent moments in our lives. So the past 2 months, we've gone from connecting with others through belonging, connecting with the world through our purpose, connecting with ourselves through storytelling, and now connecting to what some of us call sacred or mystery or God or the web, whatever you want to name it. And in Unitarian Universalism, we have as many names for it as we have plants and flowers and trees in the true permaculture garden. But this connection to whatever we name it is crucial in creating lives of meaning. So our faith community understands the importance of this. Our very first source of wisdom from which we draw, which you may have already noted in your order of service, it's this direct experience of transcending mystery and wonder, affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. So that word transcend in this context means to go beyond, to climb. And a transcendent or mystical experience is one in which we feel that we have risen above our everyday realities. In her book, Smith describes it as this: the abject humility we experience when we realize that we're nothing. We're nothing but tiny flecks in a vast and incomprehensible universe, paradoxically fills us with a deep and powerful sense of meaning, a brush with mystery. Whether it's underneath the stars, before a gorgeous work of art, during religious ritual, in the delivery room, it can transform us. These brushes with mystery change the way we understand the universe, and they change fundamentally the way we understand ourselves. Where in your own life do you find yourself brushing against this mystery? Earlier this week, I asked a few of you that question, and you responded. Francis Goff said, "Music for me is like breathing. I can transcend when singing Brahms and under the right conditions, and last spring was the right conditions. When listening to the finest singer I have ever heard in my life, Jonas Kaufmann, is certainly transcendent. Hearing him live is beyond transcendent." George Patton, no surprise, feels it when he watches a red dragonfly land on a pink cosmos flower. George Inoki rises above the everyday world, literally, when hiking in the mountains of Yosemite. Joy Lamb finds it through mindfulness meditation. And my friend Stephanie Ludwig describes that brush with mystery and its lasting impact. She wrote, "One morning on a long winter run, I was overcome by a deep felt sense that I could trust myself. I could trust myself and others and life in a way that I'd never known. And in the weeks following this experience, I felt changed on a cellular level. And the change rippled through my life, creating the conditions within me for the transformation of trauma that I had long embodied. In each of these examples, our friends point us to an important lesson, one that's crucial in creating lives of meaning. And it's that as we're trying to create this coherent, whole sense of self, we have to give ourselves the gift of time. And I know how hard that can feel in our everyday lives that are full of freeways and meetings and people and families, and feeling like we have to show up to our jobs and our church and other areas of our life. This gift of just time to sit and think and wonder, to move from a human doing into a human being. And what would that feel like for you to just be a human being a couple of times out of your day? I don't read about too many experiences of transcendence that occur rushing from the post office to a meeting at Troop to Trader Joe's to home to make dinner and then to clean it all up and start all over again the next morning. Though it's possible, my friend Cheryl writes about a moment of connection and compassion she had in a Trader Joe's parking lot, connection with a pigeon. And the thing is, Cheryl actually let herself slow down in the parking lot and not be too scared of all the other cars and carts coming at her in the Trader Joe's parking lot, that she actually noticed a pigeon sitting there and looking at her so expectantly, as if it were trying to really tell her something. And what it was trying to tell her was, I'm hurt and I need help. And so lest we think that my friend Cheryl is like a true angel of compassion, she actually got in her car and drove away, leaving Pigeon sitting there, still looking for someone to pay attention and help. And she is an angel because she couldn't stop thinking about it. And so that moment of connection, of looking at this pigeon of all creatures right in the eye, she actually drove back. And there's a somewhat happy ending to this story that I won't go into here. But that connection she felt with an injured bird, it lifted her out of the ordinary. And it reminded her of this sense of connection, that we're more than just our busy selves. We are part of the web. And in the movie, the young boy, Elliot, he doesn't rush the alien out of the shed. They don't create some sort of like trap to get him out. Somehow Elliot knows that in order to see movement, he's going to have to be careful. And it'll have to be done with some stillness. And that's where the Reeses come in. And what in your life is maybe a little bit like that Reese's piece? Colorful and sweet, a bit of a surprise. There's peanut butter in it. But there he was, luring him out quietly, just one step, one Reese's at a time. And I wonder if there's some part of you that feels really ready to be lured out of where you've been into someplace new. When E.T. emerged, it was frightening. I mean, it was an alien, for goodness sakes. And while we end up knowing that he's cute and sweet, of course, at first, Elliot didn't know that. And so his look as he comes out of the shed is one of like frightened horror. What is going to happen to me? Not unlike perhaps a feeling in our own hearts when there's an uncertain road in front of us. We're not sure exactly where it's leading, what's going to come out of the shed. But soon in the film, you can see that look of frightened horror. His eyes light up and get wide, and they're one instead of wonder and one of awe. I think sometimes those uncertain times in our life, if we're grounded and ready enough, that we can meet those with that same sense of pleased astonishment and curiosity, feeling held. The wonder of that particular moment, the wonder of being together so close and yet so far apart, feeling more of our connections than our separateness. Can we be able to allow ourselves the space and time to connect with the awe and mastery of the universe? When we do, it creates some fertile ground in our hearts and minds, fertile ground for healing, for taking chances, for saying an unexpected yes, for developing wholeness in ourselves and letting new life emerge. And those moments remind us that even when we're in times of our lives that fill us with fear, there is an alien in the shed, gosh darn it, that fill us with anxiety. I don't know where life is taking me next week. When it's filled with uncertainty, what am I gonna do with my life to make meaning? It helps us know that ultimately in those times that we are not alone. The womb of stars embraces us. We are of the earth. We are part of the great circle of humanity. We are part of the warm, healing embrace of True Unitarian Universalist Church. And wherever we are, whoever we are with, may you know above and beyond all else that there is a love holding us, holding you. May you be whole. There is a love holding me. There is a love
holding all that I love. There is a love holding all I rest in this love.
Please rise.
There
is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love.
There is a love
Holding all
I rest
in this love. And take a hand of a neighbor as we continue to sing. There is a love
holding me.
There is a love holding all that I love.
There is a love
Holding all
I rest in
this love. There is a love holding us.
There is a love holding all that we love. There
There is a love holding all that rest in this love. And as you continue through this day, through the week, through months to come, know that you are held, by a love holding all of us. May you meet people and pigeons and aliens in your lives with courage and strength. And yes, I am holding you as you hold me too. I love you all. Go out there and love the world. Amen and blessed be.